Good morning on a Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Rod Hills. We get you prepared. We're now hours away from a 2 o'clock start time in Portland for an ice warning for freezing rain. Now, down in the South Valley, Albany, your warning begins at 11. And, of course, keeping a close eye on the ranges of possibility is Chris McGinness. Good morning.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and walk through kind of the updated time frame of when these warnings kick in real quick. We can zoom on over here to our computer screen and show you the ice storm warning covers the entire area in that bright pink shading from Skamania County all the way down to Lane County. So the heart of our viewing area up and down the I-5 corridor. The southern valleys, so this is Lynn, Lane, Benton counties, Corvallis to Eugene, Albany. 11 a.m. is when that start time means. So basically as early as 11 a.m. we could start to see some light freezing rain develop in that part of our viewing areas. We shift north for the central and northern Willamette Valley. So this includes Salem, the Portland, Vancouver metro area, Troutdale, Hillsborough, etc. That kicks in at 2 o'clock, as Rod mentioned, 2 p.m. until as late as 4 a.m. Wednesday. And then last but not least, as we go out into the Columbia River Gorge, that warning kicks in at 4 p.m. today. So that's kind of the updated timeline on when the warnings go into effect. Rod's got kind of more on the here and now, where we stand now, and walking us through Futurecast to see the anticipated arrival of that freezing rain.
Well, nice and clear this morning, wasn't it? Things are changing.
The clouds have come in.
Take a look at the big monitor. Jay, walk over to the big monitor there, and we've got the clouds over our camera at Stiller Family Vineyard Estate. That is sleet and snow on the ground from the weekend, and that's going to be covered in a glaze of ice as we progress through the day. We're also seeing clouds over Lincoln State. Now, a quick reminder that the coast is just rain this time. Just rain. Chris already took you through the warning map. It is snow with the winter weather advisory about the time you get in the gorge to the Dalles. And then snow up in the Cascades, although reason to believe there's some icing all the way up to snow level, which is about 5,000 feet a little bit later today. So as we go through the afternoon, much of Oregon up into Washington looking for some measurable wintry precipitation. Southwestern corner of Oregon, you can see the moisture coming in now with a little bit of rain moving up into the Bandon area. And again, just rain at the coast. Now here's where we are. Can't be rain. If it started right now, it would be something, right? It would be ice, because look at the temperatures. After being down as low as 13 this morning, Forest Grove is currently 18. So here's the problem. Cold Arctic air still in place. All of our modeling suggests that this is a solid warming aloft, which means all raindrops until the moisture strikes and makes impact with surfaces. Then it glazes into a sheet of ice, and that would be freezing rain. But you can see on the temperatures, we are nowhere near freezing. And with clouds now coming in, that's going to cap the warming to some extent. So it heightens the probability this will be a significant freezing rain event as we roll through the afternoon and into the evening hours. It was 10 below out in Baker City this morning. Good grief. Big
reservoir of cold. The freezer door is open through the gorge.
1 degree out there. And here's the first model we're going to show you, the Futurecast graph model we typically show you. And again, this salmon color, this is all freezing rain shooting up. So again, Albany, Chris mentioned, 11 o'clock start time for the warning, 2 o'clock from Salem into Portland. Could be freezing rain before 2 o'clock, I feel like, in Salem. And once it starts, we talked about this yesterday, the second you get freezing rain, it gets bad in a hurry. Much more quickly, in my opinion, than kind of a snowstorm where you watch it kind of stack up and you go, well, it's getting deep, things are getting bad. No, this will get bad really quickly, moving up late afternoon, if not before, up into Clark County and parts of Cowlitz County. There is a sign on our modeling that up in Longview it could be a bit of a mix with temperatures around freezing today, so rain/freezing rain depending on exact location. And then still looks like this evening, here we are somewhere around the midnight hours, we get a south wind racing up the valley. That potentially around midnight warms you folks in Marion County and Lynn counties above freezing, and then you're done. You'll just stay rain the rest of the night. But take a look at this. Chris mentioned the Weather Service verbiage for Portland ends the winter storm warning, their current timing at 4 a.m., but not so fast. This is 9 o'clock in the morning, and I believe this has a good chance of being true. This is still a freezing temp in Portland with freezing rain accumulation, and then that freezing rain maybe even lingering longer in the morning hours once you get east of 205. At 10:30 in the morning, here it is still in the gorge. But is this freezing rain at 10:30 all the way into Gresham and Troutdale and Washougal and Camas? Maybe. You folks that are long timers out there in East County, you know how this goes. We tell you it's going to warm up at a certain hour. It never happens until hours after we say it. So we'll just wait and see and prepare for the fact that this could be extended icing in parts of East Clark and Multnomah counties into the gorge during the day, while the rest of us see rapid warmings. And this is actually heavier rain coming in during the afternoon hours. But here's the gorge, still a mix of ice and then snow out into the Dalles. And eventually, during the day tomorrow, everything will quickly get back to normal. I think Chris is going to take you through this map in just a second, a little bit more, but this is showing you ice accumulations, and Chris is going to come back to that and touch on that. I think this is the money map because we know moisture's coming in. We know it's going to be freezing rain. Well, the second you get above 32, it's just rain and your storm is over. So we'll call this the money map. And I think this particular model has a pretty good handle on things. This is 7 p.m. this evening. This is freezing rain in Eugene, Corvallis, Salem. There's Longview with maybe that mix depending on exact location up in Cowlitz County. Let me play it. Right now we're just after midnight. Here's the warming, and it's impressive. Eugene 42, Salem 36, rain. Your storm is over. Corvallis, we talked about this yesterday. Sits in that cold pocket off of the coast range, so maybe freezing rain a little bit longer. But there's Portland, still freezing rain. Hood River 15. Here's the morning hours. Salem, how do you do? Rain and 45, while Portland is still suffering from freezing rain, ice accumulation, and 31, and maybe even quite a bit colder out in Gresham and areas closer to the gorge. Now this model does at some point tomorrow, probably before the noon hour, rapidly warm up the heart of the North Valley and Portland, and there's Longview at 36. It does warm up Hood River at 34. That may not be accurate. There could still be colder temperatures in the gorge even at that time. And again, we're not sure, as I mentioned, exactly when the warming is going to take place east of 205. Those gorge winds are still blowing today, 40 to 45 miles per hour out of the gorge. So yeah, that's locking down cold weather. Here are the temperatures this afternoon statewide. Again, we talked about the ice in the gorge turning to snow in the Dalles. We talked about well, maybe we didn't. A mixture of snow and sleet with 1 to 2 inches accumulations in Central Oregon, if you're watching us from over in Madison Bend and Sun River, and then just straight snow picking up in the afternoon out farther to the east. Notice timberline's at 29 degrees. And if you look at the snow levels, it's 5,000 feet. So I think even up to government camp, it's at least possible that there could be a mix of some icing up into that area. And then the real quick headline is certainly on Thursday, we're back to a normal pattern with the valley above freezing at night, daytime highs in the 40s, and just some rain. And now we want to start picking Chris's brain about the ice potential or anything else that you want to break out.
You mentioned when do we get above freezing, right? Because we go from rain to freezing rain, or from freezing rain to rain, right? Once we get that south wind and temperature above freezing. So let's go ahead and bring up the wind modeling, because we're still under a wind advisory, by the way, in the east, in the metro area until 10 o'clock. This is at 8 o'clock. So you're looking at Futurecast. And wind gusts are still out of the gorge. And to Rod's point, like even down to Salem at 8 o'clock, we still have that north wind, right? But as I roll the clock through the overnight, look at that. Coinciding with that warm up, this is overnight. 2 o'clock in the morning, Salem goes to a south wind. And just like that, we start scouring out the cold. But Portland and Troutdale and through the gorge, the freezer door is still open. And so
this is what Chris is talking about. Look at this. South wind, whoop, perpendicular switch, east wind. South wind warm, east wind cold. I mean, that's about as definite defined line as you would possibly get on
so that puts the very, well, when we're here in Salem, or we're here in Portland watching Salem thaw out and they're dealing with just plain rain, the freezing rain line will seem tantalizingly close.
Yes.
But the east wind will just keep holding on. And here we are at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. Remember, the ice storm warning expires, at least at this point, for Portland at 4 a.m. tomorrow. But to your point, there's the east wind, out at Troutdale. So at least, the east side of town is still, going to be one of the last holdouts until finally in the afternoon, we will celebrate that south wind switch. And that should, warm us up and make everything great,
better?
Right?
Yes.
Better, yes. Snow in the Cascades at the Cascade Ski Resort, so this will be good for them. But getting there, as you mentioned, would be, kind of a challenge tonight and tomorrow with the ice. And then real quick, here's the what'd you call it? The money model.
The money model.
The money model.
Temperatures.
The temperatures, and then the ice accumulation potential.
Yeah. This is the ice. Okay.
If we get 0.3 of an inch of ice with 20 or 30 mile an hour winds in Portland, that could be, bringing down more power lines. We still have thousands of people without power. Portland Bureau of Transportation, as of 10 o'clock this morning, still has dozens of roads closed, primarily in the West Hills, because of downed trees and power lines. So this is obviously, another what are we, 18 hours or so of 18 to 24 hours of kind of, oh man, let's get out of this, and then finally we will. But that's the latest projection for the graph model in terms of ice accumulations, and it's got the bullseye out obviously in the gorge, but a third of an inch of ice is still a lot in Portland and Gresham and Troutdale.
And notice how the modeling picks up on the colder air lasting longer. The bullseye, and Chris just mentioned this, the highs. Go ahead and zero back in on that, Jay. On the model. Notice how the bullseye, the numbers are largest here in that east, what I call the east wind blast zone out of the gorge. 0.37, 0.37, 0.37, 0.63, 0.45 in Stevenson. So here's the modeling picking up on freezing rain, longer in duration, and therefore the ice accumulation numbers are a little bit higher. I noticed our chief meteorologist, Matt Zaffino, when he was writing about this last evening, did make mention that there could be a half an inch to as much as an inch of ice accumulation in some of the hardest hit areas. And I would have to say that's at least a possibility out in East Multnomah, Clark County, and into the gorge, because the modeling is still. Actually, I didn't look at the 12Z numbers coming in at 4 this morning, but the models were showing a good half of an inch or more of possible liquid precipitation to deal with.
Yeah, you still have, as we mentioned off the top, that reservoir of cold air, and as long as the wind is blowing east through the gorge, you're still tapping into that at the lowest levels of the atmosphere. So, the lowest 1,000 feet or so can be below freezing, and that's all it takes really to keep the freezing rain machine going.
But a quarter of an inch of ice, serious, right, Chris? Just that much ice accumulation.
You start seeing issues as you get between a quarter and a half an inch. You can start bringing down tree limbs and more power lines, et cetera. Hopefully we snapped off the weakest ones this past weekend. Yeah. But if we start laying down a half an inch of ice, that's going to be a different story. So hopefully this is, those are the max numbers that we see, but we'll have to wait and see how fast we warm up. Back to there you go. There's the money model.
There's the money map. So if you're just joining us, to me, this is the money map, because, we know this. It's all rain coming down. So as long as you're freezing, it's an ice storm. The second you get up to 33, 34 degrees, it's not an ice storm, it's just rain. So if you want timing, and obviously these are models, and they have a chance to be exactly right, but they can also be off. But let's play the game that this is exactly right, okay? Here we are at 7:15 this evening. All ice, Eugene, Corvallis, Salem, Portland. Kind of a mix back and forth of rain and freezing rain up in Longview, where it's just above freezing, and you're north of the cold outflow, and the models are showing there's a little warm pocket up there. But just focusing on the I-5 corridor right here, okay? Let me play the clock into shortly after midnight, 12:15. Now it's just rain. Storm's over, Eugene. Now it's just rain. Storm's over, Salem, 36. You'll continue to go up into the morning. Little cold pocket lingers down in Oregon State. Still freezing rain in Portland, 29. Freezing rain in the gorge, Hood River, 15. Let's go in tomorrow morning at 7:15. Here we go. Still freezing rain, Portland, 31. 45 in Salem. You're outside in short sleeve shirts, maybe with an umbrella. Or maybe you're just letting the rain hit you in the face because you're so happy at that point. Yeah. Still a cold pocket in Oregon State. That's interesting. I say Oregon State, Corvallis, 31. And then look at Eugene, almost busting 50. And of course the coast is just going to be rain. There's still like a 50. This is tomorrow morning. Remember overnight tonight, there's south winds, and Chris showed you this. There's south winds bringing that warm air advection. South wind runs into a wall as it hits the east wind, blowing into Multnomah County and parts of Clackamas County and Clark County. So let's go ahead and play one more tick. Now, later in the day, it shows everybody warms until you get well into the gorge past the Hood River Valley into the Dalles at 25. But it is this area from Hood River all the way into the east metro areas, when I'm saying east of 205, where it's hard to pinpoint when the warming is going to take place. And if you folks have lived there for a long time, you know that. Often it doesn't warm until after your forecaster says it's going to. So that's kind of a wait and see game. But I think everything else on this temperature projection I really like, and has a chance to almost be exactly spot on. Chris.
Interesting that some districts, by the way, also kind of already announced a late opening for Wednesday. That might be, I think top of mind for folks, at least in the northern Willamette Valley, Clark County, and the Gorge for tomorrow. Obviously, a lot of schools, almost all schools, closed today in advance of what will probably be freezing rain and ice on the ground in what would normally be that commute home from school. Yeah. So you got to think a good call on that. But tomorrow morning is still a little like, we still have to see it happen, right? So I think for folks wondering about that, that's, kind of let's see how fast we clear out. Let's see how fast we warm up. But if that 40-something degrees in Salem at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning comes to fruition, then as you mentioned, the ice storm is over for them. It might take another hour or two before the road conditions really improve significantly.
I was going to ask you that. You think that's your best guess, that 1 to 2 hour to get the ice melted off of the main roadways once it starts to warm
Yeah,
up?
I mean, we've been so cold, right? I mean, you've got temperatures in the single-digit, well, teens anyway in the valley, so it's going to take, it's as soon as the temperature hits 32, it's probably, another hour or two after that, but, shortly thereafter.
And keep in mind, rapid warming down in Salem and south of Eugene.
And the beach this go around, for anyone watching at the coast, the coastal passes could be a little icy, obviously, and especially on the east slopes of those coastal passes, but the west side of the coastal passes and the beach will be just all rain, which I'm sure they're thankful for that. So. Yeah.
We do think, don't we, that this is it for now? We don't see anything else on the forecast models
somebody asked me that, and I looked at the GFS, which goes out now to February 1st, and there's no sign of another Arctic intrusion at least. So that gets us through January.
Are you sure?
Isn't this enough?
I saw you looking at that model with your eyes closed, just wishing there was nothing else out there.
You were the one calling for the ice storm. So when we actually get this ice storm, he called for it back in October. So this is the guy right there.
For the time being, we do think this ends this particular Arctic air that will moderate out of it, and as Chris mentioned, the models
come on, groundhog.
First, so yeah, we appreciate you using KGW as your weather source. We always say that. We mean it sincerely. Chief Meteorologist Matt Safino will be here starting at 4 this afternoon. Of course, we'll have the update on the noon news coming up, but really Matt's show is going to be in the middle of starting to get, we think, bad icing reports at that time at 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and I think that's just kind of in summary, with that 2 o'clock start time in the valley, 2 o'clock down in Salem, as you mentioned, we could have ice on the roads in Salem, and not too long after that, here in Portland is when we think that freezing rain threat develops right here in the Portland, Vancouver metro area. So you still have, maybe a couple hours to get some stuff done, but best to not be on the roads once that ice starts forming, because as soon as the first drops hit the road, each drop is turning into a little icy patch. So.
Absolutely. So I'm meteorologist Rod Hill. This is
Good luck.
me, Chris McGinness. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.